Well, good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. I'm brought to you by Hope Through Navigation. This is our Hood Recovery Services. You can reach me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. I'm excited to do the Just for Today in a meditation with you. So let's go ahead and get into that. Let me pull up the screen. May 20th, coming out of isolation. We find ourselves doing and enjoying things that we never thought we would be doing. Basic text, page 102. Active addiction kept us isolated for many reasons. In the beginning, we avoided family and friends so that they wouldn't find out we were using. Some of us avoided all non-addicts, fearing moral backlash and legal repercussions. We belittled people who had normal lives with families and hobbies. We called them uncool, believing we could never enjoy the simple pleasures of life. Eventually, we even avoided other addicts because we didn't want to share our drugs. Our lives narrowed and our concerns were confined to the daily maintenance of our disease. Today, our lives are much fuller. We enjoy activities with other recovering addicts. We have time for our families. And we've discovered many other pursuits that give us pleasure. What a change from the past. We can live life just as fully as the normal people we once scorned. Enjoyment has returned to our lives, a gift of recovery. Just for today, I can find pleasure in the simple routines of daily living. Let's take a moment of silence followed by the wee version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. So I have many thoughts about this particular Just for Today in a meditation coming out of isolation. And for some people, isolation was the thing that they needed to do in order to avoid scrutiny of others. And they would pretend or suggest that maybe they were just introverts. The disease of addiction will make you quite introverted. Initially, I think the disease of addiction, everyone generally speaking is introduced to drugs through someone else or some other, it involves people. And then so initially it's just the partying thing to do, but eventually it takes over you. The man or woman takes the drug, right? The drug takes the drug, right? The need is there, and then the drug takes the man or woman. And so the choices are gone at that third stage, right? Appear to be gone. Let's keep it 100. It appears to be gone because you're in the rat race. You're in the disease of addiction. In the disease of addiction, all bets are off once you take that first one, because now it's just how much clarity will you have or strength to pull yourself away to do the things that you said that you would do. In most cases, the stories are always the same. They end in jails, institutions, or death, or another way to live, which is recovery. And that's where we're at today. If you're listening to this, you have found another way to live. And I want to congratulate you on that. I think that the interesting part of this meditation for me isn't so much that we start out one way and we get progressively worse, and then eventually we get into recovery and realize that we do have people that are genuinely interested. Not everyone in the meeting is going to like you, but we genuinely have people that are interested in our recovery. And there are people that genuinely need us to recover: our children, our parents, our jobs, right? And we become productive members of families and societies at large, okay? But the point that I am focusing on here is that this sentence right here, let me see if I can actually highlight it for you. Our lives narrowed and our concerns were confined to the daily maintenance of a disease. For some reason, when I read that, I thought about diabetics and I thought about people that have cancer and are taking treatment, radiation and chemotherapy, right, for their cancers. And it just hit me in such a way that this disease of addiction is a malady in many forms, but it requires maintenance. It requires maintenance. The disease of addiction requires to be maintained. Just like cancer. If they tell you you're in third stage cancer and your life can be prolonged by surgery, then radiation and chemotherapy, right? If they tell you that, the average individual understands that going through chemotherapy is very hard on the body. But most people are willing to go through it just to buy themselves some more time to be with their families. That disease requires maintenance. And then you have to continue to get your blood tested to see if it's all gone, or are there further evidences of it spreading? It has to be maintained. The disease of addiction has to be maintained. Recovery from it has to be maintained. Either direction you go in, if you go in the direction of the disease of addiction in the active maintenance of getting your next one, once you get started, it's hard to stop. It's like breathing air. You need it to survive. And that's what your mind frame tells you if you are in active addiction. That disease of addiction is demanding that you maintain it. And so when it says here, we were confined to the daily maintenance of our disease, that's absolutely true. And it's one of those types of diseases that, unlike cancer, right? If you ignore it, the cancer gets worse. But the disease of addiction, actively using, requires maintenance. You can't ignore it. Chances are, if you do ignore it and you pretend that you don't have a disease of addiction, you will continue to pick up and continue to use. You will continue to lie to yourself and say you're a social addict. And so it just seems kind of odd to me that whether or not it's active or it's inactive, as far as recovery, it has to be maintained. Now, the chemotherapy to the disease of addiction and recovery, right? The basic text tells us that honesty is the antidote to diseased thinking, right? And that's why that's one of those indispensable spiritual principles: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. That's why honesty is right there at the front and is right there at the beginning, because you have to be honest about the issues that you have with using in order to be able to make a start at stopping. If you're in denial, you'll continue to use and your life will continue to be in ruins. But if you're honest about it, then there's hope. And that's why honesty is indispensable. You have to have that. And I just want to encourage you today to One, pat yourself on the back if you've been able to stop using drugs, right? Or stop using any mind or mood altering substance. Pat yourself on the back, but don't pat too long, right? I don't want you to stay in that too long, because even though it's a great accomplishment, the seconds in a day are continual. I mean, upwards of 80 something thousand seconds just in one day, one 24-hour period. And every second, every minute, every hour that passes, there is still the potential, as the basic text calls it, the lower destructive power. There's still that potential for there to be some triggering of our disease of addiction. And we don't have time to stand around patting ourselves. At least I got clean. Well, yeah, at least you got clean, but you're still a thief. You're still a liar. You're a dressed up garbage can, basically, right? So no, we don't have time to pat ourselves on the back and just be like, I made it, I'm clean. No, there's work to do. You have to actually roll your sleeves up now, and not make up for the time, because you can't make up for lost time, but at least make the time that you have left on this face of the earth as beautiful and as productive and happy and joyful as possible. As possible. It's a shame, I think, to get into recovery and never do the work, because that means that if you never do the work, and when you do the work, there's going to be some uncomfortable moments. But I truly think that if you never do the work, then you still have to deal with some of that ickiness, that obscurity. You still have to deal with some of that darkness in your emotions, because you haven't even taken the time to clean up relationships. You're just assuming, if you haven't done these 12 steps, you're assuming that people are going to celebrate your clean time, and they might celebrate you, but there's nothing like a good old fashioned, I was wrong, I'm sorry for that. Let me know how I can make that up to you, and if it's feasible, I will do it. There's nothing like that good old fashioned, genuine, authentic, amending apology. And I say amending in the sense of a adjective of the apology, because everyone can say I'm sorry, but very few people realize that those are just words. The real proof of your remorsefulness is in your changed behavior. And also acknowledging that there was some damage done and repairing it if possible. Some things just aren't possible to repair, and they will forever treat you like an addict. Like the basic text says, last to be lost is the stigma of being an addict. Once an addict, always an addict, right? So a lot of people that don't understand what we suffer with will never forgive you. They will never, ever forgive you. But it's yours to at least acknowledge your error, if possible, if it doesn't do further injury. So I think today, I just want you to walk away with it in mind that at least I'm in recovery, and I have the potential for allowing my life to blossom and to be joyful. And I need to get busy about those things and enjoying life today, enjoying the people that God has put in your life as confidants, as friends, as sponsors, as mentors, as children, as sisters or brothers, right? Whatever you're enjoying in your life, these are fruits today as a result of you doing something different, and mostly just not using, but you have to do some more work, right? And I just want to encourage you today to sit out in the sunshine, under the, in the sun, in the shade, and just develop a gratitude list. It can be written down, but it can also be mental. I have a basic text that I've managed not to give away that has my permanent, I call it my permanent gratitude list. And in there, there's 11 things that are listed that I will forever be grateful for. Whether I take another breath or not, I will die with gratitude for those 11 things. Figure out your permanent gratitude list and write those in your journal. You know, write them in your basic text where you can see them. So on those dark days, the way that I used it, on those dark days when I wasn't feeling too great, I could just open my book and be like, yep, I'm still good with that. I'm still great. I feel good about that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will go through those 11 things, and it has never failed me, because there's a chemistry that happens compared to negative thinking, automatic negative thoughts, which they're always generating. And we sometimes don't really even notice that they're there until we're really down on ourselves. But there's also something about affirming ourselves, bringing positive words and energy into our life. I want you to focus on that today. I hope that you have a beautiful day and a beautiful weekend. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.